Hello, this is Adrian Gonzalez. I'm joined here with
Michael Petrick.
And we are doing our first episode of our new podcast, Color Commontary. I hope you will get that.
Yeah, no, it's the jokes. The jokes, man.
I mean, we're basically two dads, so dad jokes are gonna abound.
Yeah, it's not gonna be proud for us, but you know. So we play a lot of Pauper, and that's mainly going to be the focus of this podcast, I think.
Yeah, we're pretty diehards of the format. That's basically all I grind on MTGO, and basically all we do for F&M.
Yeah, we're lucky enough to have a local F&M that we can play Classic Pauper at, and, you know, we've got a nice, pretty healthy meta. Like,
yeah, I'd say.
Things have gotten a little bit kind of congested. We've got a lot of like the really fast aggro decks are showing up a lot more.
Yeah, I think there were 2 or 3 Delver Fiend decks over the last couple weeks.
Last week I actually think it was 2 copies of Delver Fiend, 2 copies of Boggles in a meta where we usually see at most like 1 or 2 of each deck.
Yeah, and
there were also 2 affinities.
There were 3. There was
3.
There was me. There was that. There was Jack,
the kid.
and then there was the kid. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I guess we should probably, you know, introduce ourselves, let people know who we are, so we're not just faceless voices on the internet. Like, we're actual human beings.
My name is Adrian Gonzalez. I also have a YouTube channel called Warzales Magic, where I play a variety of formats, not just Pauper. It is mostly Pauper, though. I'm originally from Houston, and I've been playing Magic since about Portal, which was I would consider my first set. But I didn't really start seriously playing until maybe Return to Ravnica. And my favorite common is going to have to be... It's got to be Atog. I think Atog is one of the best creatures in the format.
Yep. You love your affinity.
Yeah, guess what deck I play. Yeah, I mean, Atog, you can stack artifacts to it. Sometimes they draw you cards. Sometimes they're just lands and you 2-for-1 yourself, but at least you kill your opponent's big creature. And then, of course, the Fling combo. What's not to love?
No. I mean... It's legit. I'm Michael Petrick. I've been playing Magic since Mercadian Masks came out.
Mm-hmm.
And I stopped playing, actually, right around the time Affinity shows up. I stopped playing in between Mirrodin and Darksteel. And, of course, because of this, like, you know, I lost out on all that sweet value of all those uncommons I could have been opening. Like, Aether Vials,
but, you know, we don't...
Tops.
At least you don't have to play Visions in this format, right?
I mean, true, yeah. I mean, I just want the modern value so I can trade for legacy stuff, but, like, that's just me. And my favorite card in the format, and everyone gives me so much shit about this, is Trinket Mage, just because it is a good tutor effect with a body on it.
I don't think it's bad. Like, what are you normally getting? You get the land if you need it, you get Bone Splitter, or you get... any of the spell bombs. I don't think it's bad. I think,
or you get Sylvok Lifestaff if you're me and you're just wanting to dirtle around and go to time.
Yeah, or you get Sylvok Lifestaff.
Like I am. Adrian definitely shows up every week with Affinity,
yes.
And I definitely show up every 2 weeks with a brand new deck that's usually hot trash. Try and play through it without going to time. Though the week I showed up with Turbo Fog, I pulled out a game from Under Teachings.
That's pretty sick. Did you guys go 3 games in that match?
We did.
Is that why you went to time?
Did we go to time? I don't remember. Whatever. Nathan's not as fast as he thinks when he's playing.
Yeah. Hope he's listening.
So, today's topic is a fun one that I threw at Adrian, I think like on Friday morning, because, you know, we're both on Facebook and shooting each other messages about random Magic the Gathering
mostly Pauper
stuff. Yeah, mostly Pauper. But I just hit him with, you know, what happens if you ban Delver? Like, what does the format do if suddenly, you know, the second most frequently played in card and winning decks, like,
we looked it up. The first is Counterspell and the second is Delver. And I said, what? Ban Delver?
Well, so okay, so I'm coming from a position of, you know, I talk to some people in the peasant community. Peasants format played in France and Germany, I think, and it's independently run. They maintain their own ban list, but it's all commons, and then you get 5 uncommons. And they actually they currently have a format where Delver is disallowed, but you can run Demonic Tutor.
I know, those crazy
Which
Euros.
Well, I was sitting there thinking, there has to be a point behind this. If you're willing to let, arguably the most powerful tutor in the game?
I would say, if not the most powerful tutor in the game, simply because it can get you any card. Granted, it's not like, I think Recruiter puts the creature on the battlefield.
I think it goes to hand. I don't know. I'm not...
Whatever, we'll look it up. But the
I
point
haven't
is,
played against Imperial Painter in months.
But
so
the point is, it effectively makes every single card in your deck have an extra copy in it.
Yeah,
which is strong. It gets you whatever you need.
And the big thing with Demonic Tutor is also the surprise. You don't have to reveal it. But that's what I'm trying to get at here. Is there's this format where you can play a tutor that I believe is restricted in Vintage.
Yeah,
and they ban Delver. So
I guess to look at that though, what uncommon spells do they heavily play in that format? Because Lightning Bolt's already a common.
So you've got the super fast aggro decks because they get access to. They used to play Jackal Pup, but now they're playing Swift Spear. They're playing Young Pyro, and for Affinity, I've seen people just jam Thopter Sword in it. Just okay, I'm gonna get you with one of these combos.
But so it's not really the spells that are making this format different. It's the creatures. By that I mean in the Delver deck specifically, the red-blue Delver deck.
Well, that's the big argument is Delver. If you can protect a Delver, it's 7 turns until you win. You can win on turn 8 with a Delver and enough protection.
And then I guess if you're running the Delver and you have the Young Pyro, you're just constantly generating tokens. And Swift Spear is basically arguably as good as Delver. It doesn't have flying, but it's still very good.
Well, yeah, because so they have a committee that organizes their ban list, unlike Pauper, which has the WotC maintained ban list.
Mm-hmm.
So they actually always post information about why they ban things, and they basically said, what I have, touched upon, Delver is the most efficient creature in the format, even in the land of uncommons. 1 mana, 3/2 flyer, with a negligible downside.
Yeah, I mean, we talked earlier. You said the worst case was
Daze.
Was Daze? Yeah,
because
flipping at Daze.
Because Daze is all about the surprise. The moment they know you have a Daze, it's functionally a dead card in a lot of situations.
But the other downside, right, is what if your Delver never flips? And I think even that's pretty negligible, honestly. Because at worst you have a 1/1 that they will have to deal with. I preemptively kill Delvers all the time. If I can kill a Delver on turn 1, I will.
Yes, 100%. It's like the old Bolt the Bird thing. You kill it before it becomes a problem.
Yeah, so they still have to waste premium. Not waste. They have to use a premium removal spell on even as a 1/1.
So when I first brought this up to you, I believe I told you I would not care about Delver, and we wouldn't be having this conversation if it was white. If it was a 1 white, exactly the same text, it would be much harder to play that card because
no Preordain or Ponder.
Exactly. So You've got the play that I don't always think is optimal, but it's turn 1 island into the Delver, turn 2 on your upkeep before your draw step, while you've got the Delver trigger on the stack, Brainstorm. That always feels like it's kind of a suboptimal play where you just want to get Delver in, but the big thing is it's blue. That means that deck gets to run Counterspell, it gets to run Snap still, a free bounce. It gets to run Ponder, Preordained Brainstorm.
So just to set up the Delver.
Yeah, what I'm getting at here is, if you had a white deck with a bunch of instants and sorceries in it, a mono white deck, let's just say, with a bunch of instants and sorceries in it, that feels like it's going to be a bad deck because you're actively pulling down the card power to flip this one card.
Yeah, because in white, what do we have in common? What is the white deck play?
The mono white weenies?
Yeah, Sunlance is a good one.
Mono white weenies sometimes runs Sunlance. It runs Prismatic Strands at the board usually. Guardian's Pledge is the big one. That's their finisher. The all white creatures you control get +2/+2.
Yeah.
I was actually running that deck the other day, and someone tried to make my Guardian's Pledge not work he had a Wild Mongrel out, and he pitched a card to make it bigger, and then tried to change it to white, thinking that it would get the boost as well.
Not how that works.
And then I just got the quick concede out of it once it died. I was like, ooh. I mean, I had to use a defensive Guardian's Pledge, so I didn't feel good about that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, but like, I think White Weenies probably runs like 8 instants or sorceries between the main board and the sideboard.
Yeah, so it's probably not flipping that easily, and the cards you would get instead, like you said, because like Guardian's Pledge is great because you would have Squadron Hawk, which tutors more Squadron Hawks.
Yep.
You have what's his face, the Guardian of the Guild Pact, the pro colors,
The pro multicolor thing, or pro monocolor.
Yeah, pro monocolor.
That's right, because the multicolored one's crap and unplayable.
Yeah.
But
so you have the evasive creatures to sort of finish the job with that. And so then I guess the question is, would you play Delver if it was a white card? Because I don't know if it really fits in that deck. What are you replacing? Acacia and Javelineers or something?
I don't think that deck plays it at all. I think you see it showing up in like Jeskai Kitty, the Skyfisher deck, because it just becomes a faster Skyfisher that you can potentially reset if you need it for some reason. I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think of a reason why, but I think it would just want that. Like, obviously it doesn't cut like the Skyfishers for it, but maybe it cuts like. Oh, God, that deck's actually a really tight list. It doesn't really change that much.
That we both hate, just for the record. Yeah, we're coming after you, Jeskai Kitty.
So actually, my bigger beef with Jeskai Kitty is every time I play it, it has that like. What was it? I talked with Alex Ullman online. Alex Ullman writes for Gathering Magic and Pure MTGO, I think. Shouts out to him. But we were talking about how Kitty is a deck that uses Core Skyfisher and value ETB effects.
Most notably Ichor Wellspring and Prophetic Prism.
Yeah, and like Muldrifter. Muldrifter's a sweet target to bounce back to your hand.
Lone Missionary,
like just generating a lot of value through like ETB effects. And my issue with it is always, as I said, I was talking with Alex Ullman, and he said, I think Pauper has a cool things problem. And that's the thing about that deck. Like, it's like, all right, so I've got 6 mana, I'm going to like put in my Core Sky, I've got like 8 mana, put in Core Skyfisher, bounce my Ichor Wellspring, replay the Ichor Wellspring for another 2, momentary blink, flicker the Skyfisher, get Wellspring back to hand, play it out again. It's like, okay, so you spent 8 mana, you drew 2 cards, and burned an instant. Like, it's cool. Like, all that interaction is like sweet and value town, but it's also like, yeah, but it's also not good, and you're still trying to win the game off the back of like 12 creatures, most of which don't have more than 2 power.
I have lost that deck, but the times I lose are generally when they can play a Gorilla Shaman or ban Gorilla Shaman or an Ancient Grudge. So I normally win when they just do mana denial on me, or lose when they do mana denial on me.
But like, I feel like that's where you might want to throw in like a white exact replica of Delver would fit in that deck, because in that deck it becomes the finisher.
Yeah, because now you're playing Bolt, Firebolt. It's gotta be. What's that card? The whole
Kuldotha Rebirth.
Yeah, it was like the whole card the deck's named after.
Well, then you could also like throw in like maybe a 2 count of Dispel, because you're running low threat, so you kind of want to be able to fight counter spells.
Yeah.
Maybe you run like, I think they're good artifact sack things that are just like in the vein of Kuldotha Rebirth. Like, there's gotta be something.
I think the rest are creatures, because you have Atog and Quark Clan Shaman.
I mean.
Oh, and I guess you have Perilous Research.
Oh, yeah. I think maybe you up your Perilous Researches, but like, and no, you don't run Brainstorm in that. You don't run any fetches in it, so it doesn't.
Yeah, they're playing the artifact lands instead.
Yeah. So, like, I think that's where White Delver fits. That's a very different deck, and you do actually kind of have to make some sacrifices. We just figured out, like, you'd have to swap some things in and out and change your ratios to get that to guarantee the flip. That's my point. Like, because Delver is blue, it is super easy to build a deck for Delver that flips it, because look online, see what the most used commons are. I'm pretty sure 9 out of those 10, if not 10 out of 10, are probably blue.
I think it's 9 blue cards and 1 lightning bolt.
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense. Like, it's probably... I could probably do it.
Why don't we just look it up?
Yeah. Actually, just so I have it pulled up on my phone. I do. Okay, so Counterspell, Delver of Secrets, Ponder, Preordain, Ninja of the Deep Hours. Oh, Spellstutter Sprite, then Spire Golem, which technically isn't a blue card, but it basically is.
Yeah.
Fairy Miscreant, which I am still surprised people are playing. Stormbound Geist, and Hydroblast.
we'll get to the Fairy Miscreant in a second. But, okay, so actually, surprisingly, no Lightning Bolt. And do you think that's because the online meta has skewed so heavily towards mono blue lately? I think it's like 25% or something.
It's 25%. Also, like, Burn has been having a rough time because people have started getting better about sideboarding against it. Like, people are taking that sideboard slot for, like, white decks are running, like, an extra lone missionary out of the board. Or, like...
Well, I'm playing 2 Hydroblast, Cop Red, and Armadillo Cloak.
You got access to green, right?
Yes.
You could arguably make the case for Pulse of Marasa.
Does that also get you a creature back?
Yes.
Okay, I think I am going to start running that, because that comes in more matchups, too.
Like, Pulse of Marasa, actually, if we're going to go on a tangent for a second, is one of my favorite goddamn cards they've released in the past couple years, because it gets something back, and it gains 6 life. And, you know, like, the first hard lesson to learn in Magic is, like, pure life gain is bad. And it's true.
Except against Burn.
And in this case, you're getting a resource back. And it's 6 life, which is a non-insignificant amount, even in a format where, like, because Burn is essentially a pile of lightning bolts.
Yeah. You have to, like, you know, shock test. On average, each of your burn spells do 2 damage. But, of course, in Burn and Pauper's case, most of them do 3, because I don't think they run any 2-point burn spells. I think they just go ahead and run Searing Spear.
They might run,
I mean, they have, like, Needle Drop, which is 1. So...
Yeah, they run Needle Drop, which a lot of people think is a mistake.
I like Needle Drop.
I haven't played Burn enough because I mostly play in paper, and I'm not going to drop $60 goddamn dollars on a Chain Lightning playset.
They're going to reprint it in EMA. You heard it here, guys.
I think they have a decent chance of reprinting it in EMA. Like, it's absurdly overpriced. It's a $16 common from, like...
It's from Legends.
From Legends? Yeah, like... And it's a bad Lightning Bolt. Like, that's the thing. Like, if Lightning Bolt was $16, it'd be like, okay, well, it's, you know, it's the shining exemplar of Burn. Like, it's the most efficient burn spell. But no, it's the worst version of it that is terrible in the mirror.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, Chain Lightning is red sorcery, so not even an instant. Deal 3 damage to target creature or player, but then your opponent can, for red, copy the spell, and that's why it's called Chain Lightning. Yeah, and then so if they do that, you can do it also if you have the mana available. And I actually got into kind of a war with that once on Moto, and I think I won that game.
But that's the thing, like it's Bolt and like 8 worse bolts, like, and they're all playsets. That's like how the deck works.
Yeah, because the Lava Spike, which is, you know, arguably even worse, you know, can't target creatures and is a sorcery. But
I feel like this touches on another thing that, like, is worth mentioning with respect to the whole Delver thing. Like, we just came up with a bunch of ways. Like, you can sideboard in Cop Red, you can sideboard in Lone Missionary, you can pull in, like, a Pulse of Marasa, or even run a main deck. And, like, that takes care of your burn matchup. Like, your burn matchup is, like, 9 out of 10 decks. Just a matter of, like, pulling in a few sideboard cards and just going ahead with your game plan. Because of how many aggressive decks. Like, what... Do you think there's actually any sideboarding that gets done for, like, Soul Sisters against Burn?
No, I don't think they need... I mean, maybe Cop Red.
Yeah, like, you can throw a Cop Red in there, and you usually throw in a Prismatic Strands, because Prismatic Strands is all damage, not just combat damage.
Okay, that's cool.
But, like... Burn is one of those ones where you can easily look at the deck and you can be like, alright, this seems good, this seems good, this seems good. Versus Delver, like, there's kind of that discouraging element of, like, okay, I know that this 60-card pile I have in front of me is probably just under 20 lands, 4 Delvers, 4 Fairy Miscreants, 4 Spellstutter Sprites,
and, you know,
3 Spire Golds, and then counterspells and cantrips.
And, you know, like... And this seems like a very bad matchup for Burn, even before board when they get Pyroblast because Spellstutter Sprite shuts down most of their deck. Counter spells are just good against them, and then in the board they both get Pyro and Hydro.
Yeah,
but I would argue that Hydro is better because Burn can, because, you know, every Pyroblast they bring in blanks a Burn spot. It's like they have to dedicate it to be like, I'm either going to counter another spell or I'm going to kill Delver.
Well, they also get smashed to smithereens after the board.
That's true.
I've seen them running that as a
for Spire Golem. And
just to take out some of the bigger creatures in Affinity.
And Bone Splitter. I guess you could play it on Bone Splitter. I'm talking specifically in the Delver matchup.
Yeah. Like, but I think it's one of those cases where, like, Burn is an easy deck to sideboard for. Or, like, any graveyard-intensive deck, like Tortured Existence or, like, anything with Grim Harvest in it. Like, the decks I play. Like, you don't really want to see your opponent dropping, like, a Relic of Progenitus. That one's actually way worse, and people pop it way too often. I feel like against even like most grindy value decks that use the graveyard a lot, unless they have that Stinkweed Imp, their graveyard's just a fixed static, and you can just start pulling a card out every turn. And like the other day against the guy who was playing that Wild Mongrel story from earlier, he was playing like a Value Madness deck, and he pitched a Stinkweed Imp to a Putrid Imp. Putrid Imp you can discard to give it flying. It's a 1/1 for 2. It's if you don't want to be discarding cards, it's really bad.
That's kind of a weird choice. Putrid Imp, like Wild Mongrel just seems better.
Well, he was running the Wild Mongrels in addition. I think Putrid Imp was the enabler for the busted stuff.
Gotcha.
Because he had all the delve creatures, the good ones. Mandrills, Angler, and
Scavenger.
Sultai Scavenger. And his second turn was literally like I kept a really bad hand with White Weenies, but I did have all of my hate cards, and I kind of was like, okay, I can live with 2 Relics of Progenitus. So he pitches a card, and all I have is the Relic. I activate the Relic targeting him, and so he pitches the Stinkweed Imp, so next turn he's going to dredge. And I target him, and he pitches a card just to be able to exile that instead. And he pitched like a Doomblade or something that wasn't like a dead card in that matchup. Just so he wouldn't have to exile that like Stinkweed Imp. And I love that value of just being able to be like, no, or like force bad plays. But like, I can look at my sideboard for that matchup and be like, okay, yeah, 3 Relics in, throw in a Prismatic Strands just because they have big dudes, and like, seems good. Versus Delver, like, a lot of the answers feel bad. Like,
well, because Electricity feels good, Pyroblast feels good. Again, that
Electricity feels good until they land the Spire Golem.
Yeah, but I still like to get rid of their fairies.
Yeah, that's fair.
And then I used to run Bolt out of the board for that matchup, but now I'm replacing them with Thing Steel, Finger, and Marauder because I think that feels way worse.
But like, yeah, like Delver's always kind of like one of those things where you have the sideboard slots devoted to it, but a lot of the answers don't feel good. Like,
well, because they have like creatures that are counter spells, and they're drawing so many more cards than you are,
and like obviously it's way better than when like Cloud of Fairies was there.
Yeah,
like seeing Fairy Miscreant turn 2 feels a whole lot better than seeing Cloud of Fairies turn 2.
Completely agree.
Like, ever since that ban, I have felt way better about playing this format, just because even in paper, like, it's obnoxious to play against like Familiars, the Fairy combo deck. Like, whenever someone showed up with that deck and they had mentioned it, I was just like, all right, Goblin time. Like, I sure hope you love getting hit by 3 Goblin Grenades turn 3 for the loss.
It's clobbering time.
Oh yeah.
And we allow Goblin Grenade in our format because we go by a hybrid of the MTGO ban list and our own personal ban list. But by and large, I think we've given every card that was printed at Common a chance at one point. Like, I know we didn't ban High Tide until it was too good.
Well, so High Tide's funny because that's actually because I was one of the first people to like get the buzz about Pauper at this particular store going. Like, way back in the day, I was there the first week. We had 3 people.
Score.
And now we get like 8 to 16 some weeks. Like, but anyway, like, Familiars was just like a slog of a matchup because like, oh, sorry, I got off topic. The ban list and our like unique hybrid legality.
Yeah.
So we have added High Tide because it's uninteractive and it can get the turn 2 win. Which just is such a crushing feel bad when it's like, when like that week the X and O's were Jack and Aaron, and they were both on High Tide, and the game was determined because Aaron put 4 goddamn gut shots in the sideboard and pulled them in so he could just kill the fairies for free.
Yeah, that's format warping. That's not good.
Yeah, exactly. When someone is playing the deck and is playing 4 whole cards just to shore up their like mirror match, ooh, that doesn't feel good.
It's a problem. And we also have house banned him the Torok. And did you ban that before?
Yes,
you ever played?
we preemptively banned him because him is just a feel bad in this format. Like, it's not. I don't like the times it misses and actually like hits the 2 cards you want least. it still doesn't feel good, but you're like, okay, that could have been so much worse. This 2-lander I kept could be a 0-lander.
Yeah.
And, like, I mean, you can legitimately also, like, have if hymn's legal, you can have the play of turn 1, swamp, dark ritual, duress you, hymn you.
And that doesn't even feel that bad, because I know you're spending a lot of resources, but you're just wrecking your opponent's hand.
You're 3 for 3 in your opponent.
Yeah.
Like,
which is... And then you follow with, like, chittering rats or something, you know?
Yeah, like if you hit all their lands and you chittering rats them, I know a lot of players who would just scoop in that moment.
Yeah.
And I think mono black is fine where it is right now.
It's still a tier 1 deck.
Exactly. I just don't think it needs the push. I don't know how many things we've actually like found that are of interest. Like, I know for a while people were running a Library of Lang as a sideboard card against mono black. I don't know if you know Library of Lang.
Actually, I own copies of that card, but I could not tell you what it does.
So, Library of Lang is an artifact for... Actually, let me pull it up so I can exactly quote this. But the basic gist of this card is that whenever you would discard cards as part of an effect, you may discard it to the top of your library instead. Which, you know... I think Delver was running it because you could... turn 1 Delver, and if they were on the play and they hit you with a Wrench Mind or something, you pitch 2 cards and one of them's an instant and sorcery, so Delver flips next turn. Like, it felt like a sweet sideboard card, but like apart from that, like, I'm trying to think of like stuff that people play. Like, no one's busted Merchant Scroll yet. Like,
that's because the Storm payoff cards are banned, right?
But even so, like, you know,
and now High Tide's banned in our local format.
It's a 2 mana tutor for any blue instant. Like, that's pretty powerful for our format. Yeah, like, I guess you could.
What if you do could snap Gush? You could snap into Merchant Scroll into Gush. That seems kind of sick.
Yeah, like, but it also doesn't feel like it would be backbreaking, because then you're no lands in play, or you're 2 lands down.
Yeah.
And you're definitely pitching a card after that. But, like, yeah, Merchant Scroll's one I see banned a lot in, like, paper groups, and that do paper legality, or, like, a combined. I'm trying to think of, like,
I just thought, what if I ran Merchant Scroll for Fling?
Blue instant or sorcery.
Oh, sorry, you said that.
Very specifically blue.
You said that.
It only really had a place in High Tide, because you could High Tide, Merchant Scroll, get another High Tide, go off.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah,
but, like, we don't ban Goblin Grenade because I like Goblins as a tier 1 deck. I actually think, like, it's more skill intensive than a lot of the other aggro decks.
I actually don't even think Goblin Grenade is really that big of a deal. Do you find that banned a lot of other places? Because it's so easy to, like, deal with.
Card Kingdom just did their Rags for the Riches 4, I think, and Goblin Grenade's banned there, and, you know, people still show up with Goblins. I'm still actually waiting for the full meta breakdown, because they mentioned that there was a bug mid-range deck, and you know I'm, like, all about, like...
Oh, I know.
Bug decks, mid-range decks, or, like terrible brews. I am all about that. Like, I showed up with Watch Rights one week. The one where you just make a bunch of tokens, keep watch.
That's the Goblin deck? The red-blue Goblin?
Yes, but my version was a little jankier. I was, like, running, like, I think Jeskai colors so that I could have more token generation. Because Battle Screech into... The combo is Keep Watch, which is 2 and a blue, draw cards equal to the number of attacking creatures, and it runs Rites of Initiation, which just says, it's 1 red, discard any number of cards at random. Creatures you control get +X+0, where X is the number of cards you discarded. So the goal is, like, swing with 8 dudes, keep watch, draw 8, everything gets +8/+0, and do you have a wipe, or do we just go to game 2? But, like, Card Kingdom doesn't allow Goblin Grenade during their tournaments, and I've played with it, and the funny thing is, like, at first it was like, hell yes, Goblin Grenade, gotta be a 4 of. My current Goblin list, like, I have it in my bag, like, there are 2 Goblin Grenades in that. Main deck and sideboard. Like, there's no matchup where I want them. And, like, a lot of the time, if they're not, like, just outright winning the game, I'm killing anglers with them. Like, Gurmag Angler is such a problem for goblins.
Yeah, and, like, Bushwhacker arguably is better because it doesn't cost you a goblin if somehow something goes wrong, and, you know, it makes attacking with the team... Obviously, you're going to attack with the team the turn you play a Bushwhacker, but...
I will tell you this. If I have 2 creatures on board and I'm not fearing a wrath, I would rather have 2 Bushwhackers in hand and the mana to pay for them in the same turn. Actually, no, I'd probably space them out.
That's 4 mana.
Yeah. Like, I hit 4 mana all the time in that deck.
Well,
I don't know why.
Well, I'm just saying, like, you could do both.
Yeah, you could, but, like, I'd rather play 2 Bushwhackers in one turn most of the time than Goblin Grenade.
Yeah, it's more damage.
Yeah, and Goblin Grenade feels real bad when it gets countered because, like...
2 for 1.
It's a 2 for 1, and Goblins is a creature deck. But, like, I did, when Familiars was still legal and I was first, like, giving Goblins a whirl, I did, like, get a Familiars player with, like, alright, you're at 13, you're at 12, float all my mana, Goblin Grenade, Fire Blast, got a counter, and, like, that's like a niche scenario, but, like, that is kind of a feel bad in my mind. Like, no one likes being like, alright, so he swung at me for 4, I got him on this next turn, and it's just like, nope, here's the blowout.
I do that too with Atog.
I mean, true, but Atog's an on the board thing.
That's true.
Like, they always have to wonder, and I've also noticed a lot of players when they play against Goblins at our shop are like, I can't go to 5 life, and will make bad blocks because they always think you have the grenade.
Yeah, it's definitely a play around card, but the Goblins are just such... It's not a big deal in our meta, so I just don't see a reason to ban that.
No, and it gives it a bit more reach, it makes it a bit more of an aggressive deck, and, we for a long time have had a problem, like, the closest thing to a problem I'd say was, like, up until recently, like, we've been pretty control heavy, and, I like playing control, I like playing mid-range, I like playing slow decks, I'm the guy who's usually making rounds go to time, and, like, I still think it's a problem when we have too many control decks, because then you wind up with more and more of these matches. Like, I'm willing to sit there and, like, play out a 45-minute game. Not a match, a game. Like, I've done that with, like, Nathan, who's our local teachings player. Like, we had this rivalry for a long time. I was playing, like, this Sultai Trinket Mage deck, and he could not beat me on that deck for, like, 2 months straight, and he would, like, go on tilt the moment he saw our names paired, because he was just like, alright, we're going to play one game and that's going to decide this round. Sure, it's not a feel good, but, like, better than the first time we played where it was like, alright, we actually have to roll for this because we didn't finish game 1. Like,
we do not condone settling matches that way.
No, I obviously, if the DCI listens to this, thank you, please don't pull my, like, membership.
They're coming.
Like, I like you guys. I have family who are lawyers.
Don't sue us.
Well, they're not going to sue us. They're just going to pull our some DCI numbers.
Whoa, what's this we?
I'm
just kidding.
Yeah, no obviously we're, like, bullshitting here, but, like,
yeah.
We definitely had a problem for a long time where control was just, like, the thing. Like, we had people showing up with, like, mono blue control decks with, like, 2 or 3 threats in them and just a pile of the best counter spells.
Were those 2 or 3 threats Delver?
I think, actually, no, wait. He played 2 full playsets, one of Delver. Oh, no, wait. 2 full playsets and a one of. A playset of Delver, playset of Aaron Ephemerons, and a single wall of Kelp.
What is Wall of Kelp? I have to look that one up.
Let me pull it up here. It makes Kelp tokens. That's the important thing.
And Aaron Ephemeron is a suspend card from... It must be Time Spiral originally,
Time Spiral,
right? Yeah. 2 blue... blue and a 1 to suspend for a 4/4. It's suspend 4, you said?
Yeah, 4 turns later, you get a 4/4 flying haste.
And it costs 7 to hard cast.
But, like, he was running, like, Rhystic Study, like, he was running, like, Una's Grace and actually getting value out of it. He was running, like, all these, like, dirtily control cards. Like, he was running a 4 of Exclude.
So this sounds like a really old school Magic deck, right? Where it's like lock your opponent out of the game and then play 1 threat, and then win the game off that threat.
With, like, none of the power, because now creatures are actually good enough. Like,
yeah,
if they can resolve a Gurmag Angler against you, none of your shit trades for that. Like,
I mean, was he playing?
Okay, but here we go. Wall of Kelp is from Homelands, so
it's the best card ever.
God, I just want to read this one in old school Magic. So, Wall of Kelp, 2 blue, summon Wall, blue, tap, put a Kelp token into play. Treat this token as a 0/1 blue wall, and it itself is a 0/3. So, it blocks everything that mono black plays now.
It's a dirtily control card.
Oh, like, it's a dirtily garbage control card at that, like... And it's got the sweet Homelands art that looks like it's done in colored pencil.
It's got a guy who looks like he's being strangled by a wall of kelp.
Yep. Which is funny because it has no power, but, like, that's where we were as a meta. Like, someone played Wall of Kelp, and I was like, ooh, that's actually kind of neat sideboard tech. He was like, oh no, it's main deck. And I was like, ooh, this is getting spicy. Like, that's where we were as a meta. And I was like, okay, I just got to show up with goblins every single week until people, like, decide to play aggro again.
People learn their lessons.
I think that was actually right around when you started coming to the FNMs, because the first week I remember you being there, we played the Goblins Affinity matchup, and you took game 1, and then game 2, you stuck a Circle of Protection turn 2, like Cop Red, and I was just like...
The plays.
Oh.
The plays.
Because I Stone Cold, I think to this day don't have a way to deal with that in my 75.
I don't think Red has any enchantment removal, just straight up Red.
Red has Flaring Pain.
Oh,
can't be prevented until end of turn.
Okay.
Like, but then it's like, I've got to have a lethal attack. I've got to be able to say, like, alright, I have him on no removal, and I've got lethal on board. Let's do this. Like, if I had Kiln Fiend, maybe. But, like... Yeah, no, like right when you started coming was the time where people started playing, like Aaron got really into Boggles, which, you know, is neither here nor there.
I have sideboard cards for that.
Well, like, people got into Boggles, people got into Kiln Fiend, people got, like, all the two variants of Kiln Fiend, the mono red and the red blue. Like, that's why I'm okay with Goblin Grenade existing. Like, I'm okay with enabling aggro decks that do require that you do something before turn 5. Like, I feel that's a good, healthy thing for the meta, and they're not too fast. Like, I usually 3-1 when I play goblins out of, like, a 4-round tournament. Like, I'm usually expecting to lose, like, one game to the control deck that has, like, just draws the nuts the first game, or, like, losing to, like, someone who just, like, out-tempos me a little bit.
Or has Cop Red.
Or has Cop Red, or, like, has card draw, you know, that thing that Goblins never has. Like, the closest we get is Goblin Matron, the tutor one.
Yeah, and then you're tutoring for either another Goblin. It's like Matron into Matron, and then maybe go get the Bushwhacker.
I don't think I've ever done Matron into Matron.
I see a lot of people do it, but I guess most times... I guess, like, if you don't have the board, if you need to build up your board...
Yeah, I guess. Like, it does put another body in there.
But yeah, like, the goal is to tutor into the Bushwhacker.
The Bushwhacker or the Sparksmith.
Now, here's a question, and I know... Sorry. Is Tarflare a common?
Yes, it is.
Why do they not play it in Goblins? Is it just, like, not efficient enough? Because you can tutor for that with Goblin Matron.
I don't think I've ever seen anyone run Tarfire. I think people have tried it.
Tarfire.
And it's a shock, right?
Yeah,
it's a shock with the subtype Goblin.
Yes.
Which, I hate explaining that one to new players.
Yeah.
Like, tribal enchantments and sorceries are the bane of, like, my existence, because I was running that green-black combo deck that has the thing Search for an Elf, and I was running,
Nameless Inversion?
No, not... I was running Nameless Inversion, but I was also running, the 2 and a black destroy target non-elf creature. Ending of Eyeblights?
Eyeblight Ending?
Eyeblight Ending, there we go.
Yeah, the one with the elf's, like, wiping his sword, and there's, like, an ogre.
Yeah. Well, it's because they've got the racist elves on the run.
Yeah, exactly.
And they kill stuff that's not aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah. It's messed up, wizards.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're trying to make it up to us. They made Gideon a lot less white.
That's true.
He doesn't look like, a college bro anymore. Or like Russell Crowe in that one, like, wide shot of all the Planeswalkers. He looks like he's modeled off of Russell Crowe.
Yeah.
To, like, a disturbing extent. Eyelight's
Ending. Tutoring for it.
Yeah, no, like, Tarfire I don't think is good enough to make it as, like, a tutorable shock. Like, you don't interact with Delver with that deck. Like, you just, like, run and hope you can get in, like, 20 points of damage.
Also, I guess you have Sparksmith.
Yes, you have Sparksmith, which is a stupid card that should never have been printed in common. But, like, I feel that's the recurring theme with our format is, like, man, this seems really good for a common. That seems super pushed. That's why, like, every set we get, like, 2 new cards, and even then it's like, alright, I guess this works in this one archetype. But like,
we get more cards than people think, and that makes sense. There's a lot of commons, but I guess by that token, it's also probably less cards. Like, I think out of what are we playing out of Innistrad?
Angelic Purge has seen some play. I've seen people using...
Thraben Inspector. The clues. Pieces of the puzzle.
Nathan plays pieces of the puzzle. I disagree with him firmly on, like, look through the... Like, he wants to think that card is dig through time so badly. But it's not. It digs 2 cards less, you reveal it, like... There's a lot of stuff that card is. It's not. It is a damn sight from being DTT. But yeah, like we get a decent amount of stuff every set.
You know what's actually really interesting about our local meta is that is anyone actually playing Mono Blue Delver?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so.
We have a couple of people who show up every now and then who play Mono Blue. It is a slightly more expensive deck than some other options in paper. Like, it does... Counter spells are $1 a piece, Delvers are $1.50, you know. I used to run Cloud of Fairies, which was, like, getting up to $2 at one point.
Snap, Gush.
Even
Preordained Ponder.
Gush is only, like, 50 cents.
Oh, okay.
Preordained Ponder are at least $1 or $2 a piece.
Spire Golems aren't cheap, I don't think.
I think they are.
Oh, okay, maybe. I don't know.
But, like... It's not the cheapest deck. Like, I feel like the best entry point if you're concerned about money into the format for paper is 100% goblins. Like, do you have 4 bolts laying around? Do you have $5?
Yeah. Yeah, the bolt's definitely the most expensive card in that deck.
100%. Bolt, I'm willing to bet, like, including basic lands at 10 cents a pop, bolts will probably cost more than the entire deck. Like, the entire rest of the deck. Because every card in Goblins, apart from that, is a 50-cent, like, common from, like, Onslaught or...
Now, it's quite different on Moto, though, because Pyroblasts are so expensive on Moto.
Yes. That is actually one of the things I like a lot about our format is, in terms of, like, budget, is because you can have Blue Elemental Blast and Red Elemental Blast in decks other than Delver Fiend that don't... Because Delver Fiend casts the... Delver Fiend casts, like, the empty... colored blasts because they still resolve to trigger Delver Fiend.
Yes.
But unless you're playing that deck, like, you can run the elemental blasts, and Pyroblast and paper is like $4. I want to say.
Yeah, it's up there. I don't think it's 4, but it's up there.
Versus like 50 cents for a red elemental blast.
Yeah. Can we call them the Folio Blasts versus the...
Oh, I like calling them Folio Blasts.
Yeah, I don't know who does the other art, but Folio Blasts.
Yeah, the other... God, no, that's like... The Elemental Blasts, like, have iconic art, and I can't think of who it is. It's not Richard Kane Ferguson. Because he's, like, the major, like, geometric, like, blocky dude. Alright, we're looking this up, because otherwise it's going to bother me.
We have to know. Red Elemental Blast. Well, it's $4 for the alpha one, it looks like.
Oh, yeah.
Richard Thomas?
Richard Thomas, yeah, no, one of the old dudes.
Yeah,
he's the one who does Blue Elemental Blast and, like, Tsunami and, like, Whirlwind and, like, all those
looks like
cards.
He did Fireball and Channel.
Well, like, he's... Oh, yeah, no, he definitely did Channel.
Mark Tedin did Fireball. I guess these are just other cards. Did he do Channel? He did do Channel, yeah, you're right. Okay,
like very blocky cartoon early Magic, like, take me back to my childhood style, but, like...
Is Channel Banded Peasant? It's an uncommon.
I don't know. No, it's not.
That seems good.
Because, like, the only thing you ramp into is, like, uncommon Eldrazi, and, like, yeah, Artisan of Kozilek is a pretty big card, but...
That sounds good.
Still dies to Doomblade?
Yeah.
I hate to be that guy in the thread being like, dies to Doomblade!
Can't play it. So, we never really talked about... Because I want to get back to it before we have to wrap up here. The Delver thing. What would the Delver deck look like without Delver? Like, what do you play instead?
What do you play instead? You don't play that deck at all. You're going to wind up with, like, cheap evasive threats. So, like, the fairies. You'll probably even, like, run, like, Zephyr Sprite. And then, like, just Ninja the Deep Hours to recycle them. And maybe you run Mistblade Shinobi, which unsummons when it hits. Like... I feel like you would see the definite uptick of, like, hard blue control versus tempo blue. Like, there's definitely a lot of... I feel like it fractures into 2 decks, because right now Delver is neither a control deck nor really a strictly tempo deck. it feels like both. It can play both.
Yeah, I call it. It feels like a fish deck.
Yeah, it can play either of those games when it needs to, and it does a better than average job at both of them.
Yes.
Like Goblins is miserable on defense, but Hoo Boy is great on offense. Delver is kind of just like above the curve.
But you're just saying you would not play that deck at all. Like there's just no replacement for the card.
I mean, I feel like I feel like it winds up splintering. Like you wind up with the tempo version and the control version. The tempo version looks a lot closer to what we currently have.
Maybe you just have to play black for Angler and Scavenger. So you play the blue-black Delver deck without Delver.
That one actually feels worse, just because that's a deck that has so few threats to begin with.
Okay, that's true.
Only recently have people come on to the idea that Scavenger is necessary, because that deck used to be 8 threats, and also that was when Treasure Cruise was in the format, so that was a bigger problem, arguably. But I definitely think Delver Fiend, I think, becomes more of a niche combo deck, because you either replace it with Stormbound Geist or We Dragonauts, which is another one of the, when you play an instant or sorcery, this creature gets +3/+0, fire breathing prowess or whatever.
Interesting that none of these cards actually have prowess though, right? They're all pre-prowess.
Yeah, they're all pre-prowess, and they don't trigger on artifacts because prowess is non-creature spell.
And all these cards are specifically instant sorcery.
Yep.
Okay, I kind of like We Dragonauts in that deck. It costs 3, but
it costs 3 and it's 1 toughness.
It's 3 toughness. It's 1 power and 3 toughness.
Are you sure on that? It still dies to bolt, which again, terrible argument. But
also it's Kiln Fiend, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I guess they are 1/3s.
So
okay, I feel better about We Dragonauts because then there's no Delver for them to trade with.
Yeah.
But I think you ban Delver, you wind up seeing mono black uptick. You wind up seeing Affinity actually probably change. I feel like your Affinity becomes much less ATOG centric because hold on, hear me out. I feel like you move away from the ATOG plan, or at least the Fling ATOG plan, because if Mono Blue splits into tempo and hard control, one of those Mono Blue decks is real bad for you. If it's pile of counter spells with a Wayward Soul, which I have seen played, Wayward Soul is this terrible. It's a 3/2 for 4. 1 blue, put it on top of your library. The deck runs it as its only threat, and because you can play it out and put it on your library, you don't deck yourself.
That sounds terrible.
Oh, it's brutal, but a deck like that is not a great matchup for Affinity because they will actually just counter your free spells.
I don't like that one bit.
Well, there's an argument for Delver staying legal. Delver staying legal means that the best mono blue deck is always going to be this tempo
creature ultimately creature deck. Yeah.
It sometimes just loses to solid play.
I think my record with it is maybe 60-40. I'd say I beat it maybe 60% of the time, but that's normally because I've been playing my deck for years, and so I know the matchup really well.
Well, so I think another part of it is compare Delver and the enjoyability of it to something like Kuldotha Jeskai. Kuldotha Jeskai, you get to do cool stuff. Delver, you get to do cool stuff.
Yeah, I don't play Delver.
You get all the tricks where you're manipulating the top of your library, so Delver flips on this turn, and
yeah, I had to really think of my ponders when I started playing the deck.
Yeah, there's a lot of play variants, and I think people play it because it's fun, but it also closes out games.
Yeah, it's one of the best decks in the format.
Yeah, I think that banning Delver is not a necessary evil, but I think it's interesting to think of how the format changes. I think Mono Black becomes much more of a threat. Mono Black.
Well, they have a whole creature they don't have to use removal spells on, and that doesn't Delver's whole thing is none of these black creatures that fly. They basically have to use a removal spell on it, and it probably get a few points of damage if they drop it turn 1 and it flips.
Yeah, every so often you get the surprise disfigure.
Yeah,
and that's a feel bad, but Mono Black is definitely being held back by Mono Blue, and also to a lesser extent Tron. That matchup is garbage for them.
Yeah.
But I think Mono Black becomes bigger. I think Affinity tailors itself a little bit away from the combo. I think you still run a Singleton Fling, maybe.
Yeah, just for other matchups.
Well, I think you also just run it in case you want to just throw something mid-combat. Like, if you just want to turn one of your guys into a Galv Blast.
Yeah.
Like,
but we agree that mono blue is no longer... are these variants tier 1 decks? They don't feel like tier 1 decks. They feel
like if you're talking about the split,
the
hard control and tempo. I think tempo probably remains tier 1 just because a lot of people play it. That's the other catch with using MTG Goldfish is because they changed how the deck lists are published. We only get 10 out of every day, right?
I don't know. It's not that large though.
It's not a huge sample size, and we actually missed some of the 5-0s.
I did not know that. Yeah.
There's a chance if you go 5-0, your deck list doesn't show up anywhere, and it's kind of just lost into the aether unless you can screenshot it and tell people.
That's why I don't have more results up there, everyone.
Not Gorilla Shaman?
It's not Gorilla Shaman. Or Finger Marauder. Hashtag ban Finger Marauder.
That card is fine.
No, that card is fine. It's just really... It feels really bad for me when it's like... I basically can't win the game anymore.
You are playing a format that is full of, like, feel-bad sideboard cards to the nth degree. Like,
well, Finger Marauder's main deck in some decks.
Yeah. Fangren's main deck, but, like, Gorilla Shaman is just like, yeah, you don't bring that in against anyone but Affinity, and people still pack 4 of them into sideboards.
Yeah, well, that's because my deck is strong.
It is.
Hashtag best deck in the format.
It's always been tier 1. That's the thing. Like, and it gets new toys every occasionally. Like... I feel like a mono blue tempo with like fairies and like ninjutsu tricks and like tempo bounce like vapor snag, that sort of sweet stuff. I feel like that remains tier 1 because it's more engaging. We're at an era where people are not a big fan of playing the deck, just trying to resolve a threat and counter everything and draw all the cards. Like, I feel like generally people moved away from that. Also, time restrictions on Moto. That is real. Like, mid-go, 25 minutes, so if you don't drop your stops to, like, the bare minimum as a hard control deck, you're timing yourself out. You're losing to that clock.
That's why I never conceded teachings on Moto.
Just like... God, I remember the arguments in Cloud of Fairies is still legal, where people were like, I think people should concede as soon as I demonstrate the Lupin familiars. And then someone else comes out and they're like, no! I never concede because sometimes they run out of time. And then the Fairies players like, oh, I never run out of time. I know this combo by heart. I could do it in my sleep. And it's just this huge, big circle jerk.
Now, I'm actually falling to the camp of don't succeed because I argue that the Mitgo clock is another resource that you have to manage. And if you're going to be 100%. Playing decks like that. And there are some exceptions, like Splinter Twin. I always concede a Splinter Twin. But the Fairies deck, like, I don't know. Part of the Fairies deck also made me always feel like maybe they could still not finish.
Yeah, like there was always the threat that they like screwed up, which like hoping for user error to win your game is shitty, but like it's just a demonstration. Like, can you actually tell me how this combo works piece by piece without shortcutting it?
And I actually lost a game where I was Splinter Twin in a cube because my opponent didn't concede, and I had to try and Splinter Twin in 30 seconds for like 20 damage, and I couldn't get there. I couldn't go fast enough.
Oh,
and that felt kind of bad, but at the same time, I like acknowledge that like my opponent. Your opponent doesn't have to concede to you. You know, you can call it BM or whatever, but like they don't have to. Like, no one's forcing them to. You know.
No, and I don't know. That's one of those things where I don't play on Mitgo as much as you do, so I have less strong opinions about it. But yeah, I do think you need to be able to play in a timely manner. I used to play chess when I was in high school, and like you use a chess clock for a reason. Like, it's to speed your play up. Like, having that frame of reference. Like, I really actually want to bring in chess clocks at some point for, like, F&M. I want to see how many people we can catch slow playing.
I just think it'd be so hard to enforce because it's so much to have to remember. Like, because it's not just for your turn, right?
It's passing priority.
It's passing priority, and so I just feel like it'd be so easy to forget. I mean, I'm going to try it, but I wouldn't hold my breath.
I mean, I wouldn't use it as, like, a way of, like, deciding ties. I think that's unfair because, you know, someone doesn't have his long arms. It takes them a second longer to hit that. Like, I can just sit here with my long goddamn gorilla arms and, like, hit it with my elbow.
Yeah.
And that's totally fine for me. But, like, I don't know. I feel like the clock is a legit resource in Mitgo. It's part of the difference between online and in real life play, much like, you know, you don't get to see the double-faced cards in Innistrad Draft.
Yeah.
You don't, And they did that with the Pro Tour this time. They sleeved them up
Yeah,
in
yeah.
advance. I wasn't a fan. I like the like head games of like, all right, I just saw him draft a werewolf. Do I dare draft a werewolf? I'm like 3 positions down from him.
Now, I'm on the other side where I hold the werewolf aloft and say, don't draft werewolves, I'm in it.
I mean, I'm 50-50 because like I'll either do the over-the-top reactions or just like the poker player, like...
Stick it on the bottom of your picks.
Oh, no, that's actually expressly forbidden.
Oh, I've been doing that. Did not know. Thanks. I've been doing that.
If no one called the judge, you're fine.
Yeah, I did not know that was a rule.
Actually, and as long as you're being genuine about that, that matters more than actually... Intent matters. Watsita, I learned this from a judge I was talking to. Intent matters. Like, if you screw up and, like, don't unsideboard, and you play a game, and you don't realize till, like, 5 turns in when you draw a card that you
And you
have
call
on
a
your
judge
sideboard,
over.
and you call a judge over, they will issue you a game warning. You might get a game loss, but it doesn't go on your record as cheating because it wasn't intentional. If you like immediately go like, Judge, I am so sorry, I forgot to de-sideboard.
And that actually happened to me at side event on the GP in my win-in. I had asked my opponent if he wanted to chop, and he said no because he wasn't sure if we could both get top place. And there was a turn where I played a Mox Opal and activated it for mana, tapped it for mana, and like played another spell, but I didn't have Metalcraft. And like a turn went by, like not a whole turn, but like half a turn because my opponent was a control player. He's deep in the tank, but it wasn't for a little bit till I noticed, and I called the judge over, and he won that game actually. And then afterwards we were shuffling up for game 2, and he's like, "Hey man, you were like really honest back there. Would you like to split?" And I was like, "Yeah, dude, let's do it." And we both made it to top 8, and he beat me there. But
well, like definitely, your mother always tells you honesty is the best policy. But like in this case, it actually is true. If you and you do kind of have to suck that up. Like if you have player error and the judge says that's a game loss, it's a game loss. You move on with it. Like it sucks, but you screwed up. Like and a lot of times, like at casual REL, people like your F&M, the judge will just tell you, just take it out, shuffle up, draw a new hand of however many cards you have in hand. Because it's, you're playing for packs, or you're playing for $5 store credit. Like, you're not on the Pro Tour here.
Hey man, every credit matters. Every pack matters. What if that pack had Arlen Coordinate?
They cracked one of those a couple last week, I think.
I finally got one too.
I want to trade her off because I don't need her for a cube.
That's how I feel. Trade all your Arlen Coords. Not to us though.
Yeah, no, they're also falling pretty quickly. So, but yeah,
I think that's about all we have on time.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we've touched on a lot of stuff. It was kind of scattershot at moments.
Yeah,
but,
But thanks for listening. We're definitely interested in making more. Let us know what you think. You can... I'm sure there's a comment section wherever we're putting this, so let us know what you thought. And we'll see you guys soon again here on Color Commentary. I'm Adrian Gonzalez.
And Michael Petchik.